Nobody wants to talk about this because it's uncomfortable and because it doesn't fit the kind of good parent narrative, but I'm going to say it anyway. Gentle parenting is not saving every child. In fact, for some, it's actually quietly harming them. We have swung the pendulum from your needs don't matter to your needs are the only ones that matter. And in that swing, we've lost something essential. We've lost boundaries, we've lost structure, and we've lost leadership. We've lost the kind of love that doesn't just mirror your emotions, it holds them. We have lost the safety that comes from an adult being rock steady, not in their inflexibility, but in hearing them say, I can handle your big emotions, but it doesn't mean that I'm just going to say yes. It means that I also know when to say no. We became so afraid of being like the adults or the things that have hurt us that we forgot some of the ways in which children's needs are met outside of submissiveness and kindness at all costs. A child without structure does not feel free and loved. They actually feel lost, they feel entitled, and they often feel overwhelmed. Children are not emotionally mature, and they're not supposed to be. And when we give them all the power and when we ask them to lead before they're ready, we don't free them, we burden them. Because children don't just need to be seen, they need to be held, they need to feel safe. And safety doesn't come from endless choices and actually being spared from discomfort. It comes from knowing I can trust the adult in the room to keep me safe, even when I push them away and even when they make choices that I might not like. We talk about emotional safety, but emotional safety without containment, that is not safety, that's chaos dressed in kindness. Some children are growing up to never hear the word no. They are learning that their actions don't have consequences, never being taught how to navigate hard emotions, only how to avoid them, maybe how to name them, maybe how to co-regulate them, never being led into learning how to navigate them themselves. According to recent studies, children raised with overly permissive or submissive parenting actually have lower emotional resilience. They struggle more with regulation under stress, and they score lower on empathy measures compared to those raised in firm but fair environments where they are offered warmth, but they are also offered very clear boundaries. And that is so evident to see. It also showed increased anxiety when structure was removed. Because too much emotional mirroring without emotional leadership leads to children who can name their feelings but they can't actually navigate them. And they know the words but they don't know the work. And I say this not to shame parents, because let's be honest, many of us are still recovering from the other extreme. We was raised to suppress, we was raised to be silent, we was raised to people please our way into love. We didn't get softness, we got survival. So when we became adults, we vowed to do the opposite. But the opposite of harm isn't always healing. It's left wing, right wing. Sometimes it's just a different version of unmet needs. What our children actually need isn't perfection, it's integration. They need warmth and they need limits. They need empathy and they need structure. They need to be heard, but they also need to be held accountable. And that is not harsh. That is love with a backbone, and it's essential. Parenting was never meant to be child-led. It is meant to be relationship-led, and relationships, healthy ones, are co-created with trust, boundaries, and repair. As an autistic woman and as a therapist, I think I'm constantly expected to be the one that does parenting better. Be more aware, be more regulated, be more intentional because of how deeply I feel things, because of how intensely I observe, because of the patterns that I talk about. And maybe in many ways I do, but not in the ways that people expect of me. I don't follow every gentle parenting rule blindly because I see in real time the benefits of the approach, but also the damage of the approach. I don't need years of data to know when something feels off. I feel it, I see it, I track it. See what happens when children have never been able to experience navigating frustration, and then they exit the house and they fall apart at the first no that they receive. I see what happens when a parent's own trauma goes untreated and it's masked with performative softness and kindness at all costs. I see what happens when boundaries are viewed as betrayal instead of the deepest form of love. And I also see the beauty of gentleness when it's done well. And when empathy meets consistency, when validation is backed by structure, when emotional safety is achieved and embodied and not just spoken, it's time that we start to tell the truth, not to blame and not to shame, but to course correct, before another generation grow up either silenced or emotionally overwhelmed, because both are a form of abandonment. Let's do it differently, not perfectly, but wisely, with our eyes wide open and our hearts strong.